in, everybody. Episode number 5, Fire the Cannon, a Brook Hill Athletic Podcast. It is Jeremy Hubbard here with you once again. Another great week at Brook Hill on the way, as we have a lot of things going on. All sports back in action this week. Middle school, JV, varsity. You're going to hear all about that this week. But just a bunch going on around Brook Hill, and we're excited to let you know about what we have going on. Uh, Back this week on our episode, we'll visit first with head cross country coach Josiah White. Then we'll move on to volleyball head coach Mika Hubbard. And last but not least, head football coach Scott Rye will be here to talk about the game this past Friday and looking ahead to this week as well. Before we get into all that, just want to make note of a few things coming your way here soon for Brook Hill. October 16th, Monday, October 16th, is the 27th annual Brook Hill Golf Classic. We're going to have Coach Dawkins on here in a week or two to talk more about that and what all that means. But for those of you who are new to Brook Hill, the Brook Hill Golf Classic really is the biggest fundraiser for the athletic department. We talk all the time about how the Brook Hill Athletic Department, zero tuition dollars come to the athletic department to fund all of our teams and uniforms and basketballs, footballs, none of that stuff. And so Coach Dawkins does a great job of raising all the money for the athletic department. And one of the ways he does that is the annual Brook Hill Golf Classic, and the 27th edition of that takes place this year, Monday, October 16th at Eagles Bluff Country Club. And if you want to be a part of that, you can call the athletic office. You can call 903-894-5000 and ask for extension 5000, or just tell me to talk to my wife, Tiffany Hubbard. She will handle all that and get you signed up. There's all kind of ways you can sign up. You can sign up to play as an individual. You can sign up to play as a team. You can be a sponsor. We'd love to have you as a sponsor for the Brook Hill Golf Classic. We have a big raffle, so I look forward to that. There's always some great items in the raffle. I know already we're going to have a couple of drivers, some Top Golf gift certificates, all kind of things that take place there. But come be a part of that in any way that you'd like to. Make sure and contact the athletic office for that. But that's Monday, October 16th for that. Also, we're just a few weeks away from homecoming. Friday, October 6th is homecoming night at Brook Hill, as Arlington Grace Prep will be in town taking on Brook Hill in varsity football action. So with that also comes the crowning of homecoming king and queen, and all the other festivities that go around with homecoming. So make sure you make note of that, October 6th. So a busy October. And of course, in the middle of all that, October 9th is Founders Day at Brook Hill. So a lot of things coming up in the next couple of weeks. Make sure that you are watching the calendar, our social medias, emails. I know you guys get a lot of emails, but make sure you read those when you get them, because they do have important stuff about that. So all those things coming up here at Brook Hill in the next few weeks. Also, before we get going, I want to make sure and once again thank all the folks. Sorry about that. Words are hard sometimes. Want to thank all the folks at NetSN, Brett Swinney and crew. So many things they do for us. As a matter of fact, the latest one that they did that was so huge for us was that on Thursday night, the JV football team played at home, and of course, we have a lot of boarding students that play on our JV football team, and some of the parents were wanting to watch the game. And since COVID, games have been streamed at most schools for a long time, and that was one reason why we like to do that. But also, when we do have that boarding community that's so far out there, we want to get those games streamed as much as we can. Anyway, so Coach Rowell and I visited, and we reached out to Brett Swinney and said, "Hey, is there any chance you could stream the JV game for us on Thursday night?" And Brett was willing to do so at the drop of a hat. And you can actually see that on YouTube if you search NetSN on YouTube. You can see the game, the broadcast of the JV game last week against White Oak, which was a win for the JV, their first one of the year, 26-20. They won over White Oak, but you can see that. And also, they've been at a couple of varsity home football games. They broadcast the Life Oak game. They broadcast the Grace Community game. They'll be there in town this week as we take on Atlanta on Friday. So NetSN does a lot of great things in general across East Texas, but they're doing big things for us, and we appreciate Brett and his crew. And I wouldn't want to let that moment go without telling you to make sure you download the NetSN app. and that app right now is really football focused because it is a new app and um, it's football season. You're in East Texas, right? That's important. But on there, you can get scores from across East Texas. You can get there's a weekly pick'em contest that a lot of you are involved in. I know there's weekly polls, shows. You can link to all the broadcasts. All of our game broadcasts are in the app. You can get that whether you're on iPhone or if you have an Android, you can get the NetSN app. So make sure you download that, especially as we get further into the year. They're going to do some more volleyball games coming up soon. They're going to do a lot of basketball games this year, baseball, softball. We're working with them to do a lot of different things. So make sure you get that app and check that out. All right, let's kick things off today and let's talk a little cross countries. We had a week off from cross country, but now we're back here, and I had a chance to sit down and visit with head cross country coach Josiah White. Well, after a week away on the bye week, so to speak, for the cross country team, back here with head cross country coach Josiah White. First off, Coach White, what'd you do last Saturday with no cross country meet? What was that like for you?
We watched a lot of college football, and I think, if I'm remembering correctly, the family went and we hiked at Faulkner Park, if I can call that a hike.
Well, it's more of a hike than a lot of us probably did last Saturday morning, if I'm going to be honest with you. So there you go. Well, glad to have you back. And this past
Yeah.
Saturday, you took the middle schoolers and upper schoolers to the Quitman Invitational, and had a really good showing. I'll let you talk more about it, but 3 of our runners finished in the top 20, which means they got a medal in their division, and 19 out of 23 runners got PRs. And you and I have talked a lot about what that training looks like to get to that point and be at your peak. And it looks like it's working, Coach, to have 19 of your runners PR at this point in the season.
Yeah, it really was. It's a overall great day for our runners. They competed really well. Uh, getting a PR is always great and that's nice, but um, we went out and competed, I thought, and was really proud of them. And then it reflected into a personal record for the majority of our runners. And even a few kids that didn't PR, they got, what I call just a minor injury on the course, a tweaked ankle, a side stitch. One of our girls was having a hard time. She got a kind of a flu bug this week. She was battling through that. Even those kids, they performed really well. They turned in a solid time uh, and for that situation, did really well under their circumstances. So really proud of how our teams responded. And yeah, they're responding to the training as we hope they would. Now, we want to be realistic, and we definitely can't expect 19 PRs every time that we go to a cross country meet, but we'll certainly take it, and we're moving in the right direction. I think kids are really excited about seeing how fast they can run, and hopefully we continue to stay motivated. I'm pretty sure that we will, and just keep moving forward.
And cross country is one of those events that, yeah, you are competing against an opponent, but I would venture to say that really you're competing more against yourself, that mental battle to get through it, to push further, to train harder, to do all those things that you're talking about. Anastasia Kanikina she finished in 14th in the upper school division, 13 minutes and 49 seconds, which seems pretty fast to me. Of course, I'm not a runner. So, of course, I'm not going to get a full cross country course in 13 minutes, I can assure you, but talk a little bit about her work and how well she's done.
Yeah, she has put in the work ever since the beginning of the summer. We started in June, and I tell the kids, hey, June is the beginning of cross country season, just to get them mentally prepared. I use the analogy of most seasons are about 5 months. I both coach basketball, so when we look at the basketball season, that's encompassing 5 months.
Yeah.
And so I remind our kids of that. And Anastasia has just done a tremendous job of taking that approach and remaining patient through our first 2 phases of training, especially phase 1, where it's a lot. It's the longest phase, and you're not always running real fast. We just did 1,000 repeats, and that was the shortest distance going at the fastest pace that we've run this year. And she did all of the foundational work beforehand to get to the point that now she's running really fast. So she's done a great job of sticking with the program and just getting the fruits of her labor. To be honest, I think God has definitely blessed her with the talents and abilities, and she has sought to use those. And we talk about glorifying and honoring the Lord with what He has given us. And I'm really proud of how she's done that and how she represents us as a team.
Absolutely, and just a great kid all around. If you know her, then you know that about her. Uh, on the middle school side, I know you and I have had this conversation both on air and off air about this, but what a good group of middle school runners you have. They are committed to
Yeah.
working. They definitely work harder than I would venture to say a lot of middle schoolers are capable of at this point. But two seventh graders specifically, Addie Green finished sixth in the division. Lily Shaw finished eighth in the division. Both of them just 7 seconds apart. 14:27 for Addie, 14:34 for Lily, and that's if you look at Anastasia right at the high school level at 13:49. They're 38, 40 seconds off of that.
Mhm.
The future is bright for those two, and the rest of them too. But those two have done really well also.
Yeah, really appreciate Addie and Lily, and I kind of put honestly, I put a lot on their shoulders because I asked those girls to run with Anastasia lots of times, to push her. I put Lily with Anastasia, and I tell Addie, you keep them in eyesight, and you try to close the gap in our workouts between you and them. And they have really responded. Yeah, two pretty mature young girls and pretty mature in their running. Addie Green may have the best running posture and form of anybody on our team. If you if you just go and watch her run, you look at her and say, that girl looks like she knows what she's doing.
Yeah,
Um, so they've really responded well. Lily was that young girl I spoke of that she was battling a bug this week,
yeah.
and so was really proud of her. In spite of that, to keep going, to stay right on Addie's heels because Addie did a great job. Addie had a big PR, ran a really smart, tough race, um, and Lily just gutted it out. Not feeling very well. About halfway through the race, she kind of looked at me and I said, "Do what you can. It's all guts. Whatever you got is what you have today, and we'll go with it." Because I could tell she was laboring, and she responded. It's tough in those situations to make yourself go, and she did. We have a saying, hey, try to get yourself out of a rut with 10 quick strides. And she did that twice. When she came by me, I said, all right, let's give 10 quick strides. And she responded. So that was an indication to me that she's she was giving everything she had. So really proud of those two girls. They're doing a great job. Yeah, in our middle school in general, our guys had five. We put five guys under 15 minutes middle school, and we got a lot of sixth graders.
Yeah.
So the future does look very bright, and I really appreciated how all of our kids, but our middle school boys really responded well on Saturday and ran tough races.
You mentioned Anastasia talking about her putting the work in since June, and Lily battling the bug this weekend. I think that gets overlooked sometimes when you're training to run. At any point from June until now, any kind of a sickness or any kind of a setback at all really disrupts you more than you even realize, right? Like, I mean, even if
Yeah.
just in general, right? If you're a person who's trying to get healthy and run and stay in shape, and you are sick for a week, it can completely derail you. And it's the same thing in training. So it's actually pretty impressive they've been able to withstand all that and work through that or avoid it altogether.
Yeah, that's you would hope you do everything you can to avoid it, but it is ultimately at some point in everybody's running career, it's going to be unavoidable. I watched the national cross country championships, NCAA championships, and one of the top 10 runners. It was just so sad. He's limping across the finish line. He's one of the best in the country, and it just that day it got him.
Yeah.
Um, so that's going to happen. Going to happen to all runners at some point. Um, you definitely do everything you can for it not to. And there's a lot to say about putting in the work so that you put yourself in a situation where you can avoid those. But ultimately, some days it is just unavoidable.
So, Coach, this weekend you guys are in Jacksonville, I believe, the Jacksonville Indian Express run. I got to be honest, I live in Jacksonville. Please do not come knocking on my door when you guys go run Saturday at 6 a.m. or
Yeah.
whatever early time before dawn you guys like to run.
Yeah. These will be a little bit later starts, and actually on Friday, the way Jacksonville does it, they'll run their high school. So our upper school will run on Friday, and then our middle school will come back and run on Saturday. So we'll split it up those 2 days. Um, yeah, the middle school is running a little bit later on Saturday. High school will be in the second races. They'll run a 5A, 6A right off the bat at Jacksonville, and then we'll be in the 1A through 4A divisions for high school boys and girls. But excited about that course. It's probably the course that reflects ours the most because you get to go back kind of into the woods, and there's a pretty significant hill. So I think that our kids are going to be well prepared because they run our course so many times, and our and at our campus, our course has such a significant hill that we train on all the time. So we're excited about it.
I know you'll have them ready, Coach, and we'll look forward to visiting with you next week and talking about how that went. So, good luck to you this week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks a lot.
And thanks to Coach White for joining us again this week as cross country really kind of ramping up their schedule after the week off, and they are continuing down their path to compete at the district and state level. Moving on, let's talk a little volleyball. As you're going to hear me mention to Coach Hubbard here in a little bit that the first week was a little tougher with McKinney Christian and Prince of Peace. The first week of the district schedule, you heard us talk about that last week, but Dallas Covenant and Tyler All Saints were on the schedule this past week, and Dallas Covenant is a school that actually we split with last week. So, Coach was excited, I know, to get a win over Covenant on Tuesday night, and then All Saints on Friday. But a big week coming up in volleyball, and you're going to hear Coach Hubbard talk about that here as I got a chance to sit down and visit with her. Here with head volleyball coach Mika Hubbard. First off, what a difference a week makes. 2-0 this past week as you defeated Dallas Covenant and Tyler All Saints. So a pretty good week for you at the varsity level.
Yeah. Yeah. I said we were going to have some more fun, and it definitely was that.
So it's a little different when you get to play somebody that's not ranked in the top 2 or 3 of the state. That's a little fun. This week is
Yeah.
a little more important. Before we get to this week, let's talk about those games on Tuesday and Friday, because even though it's maybe, you hate to say a lesser opponent, but it wasn't what you had seen the week before, there has to be a level of focus. And you use the word fun. I think that's a good way to put it too. But there also has to be a certain level of focus of, okay, we got to handle our business this week and before we can move
Right.
on to something else.
Right. You know, after that first week, playing two tough teams, you really need to start thinking about, you got to take care of the ones you need to take care of in order to accomplish, the goals that you want for district. So, the last 2 days, games, and then the 2 games this week, these are kind of really important kind of must haves for us in order to, um, make playoffs. That's our ultimate goal. And for this first rounds, these are must win games for us.
So as you mentioned, you're 4 games in. The schedule gets a little funky next week, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But really,
Yeah.
these are your last 2 games of the first round, so to speak.
Yeah.
They're both at home. Tuesday night, Waco Vanguard. Now that's a team that I would look, as you look at the playoff picture. They're kind of in the same boat as you are. They need to beat you, and you need to beat them, as you're probably
hmm
jockeying for one of those last couple of spots. Talk a little bit about Vanguard and kind of what that matchup may look like for you.
Yeah, I think Vanguard they're a solid team. They're scrappy. So their defense is really good. They're not going to go down without a fight. I think we match up pretty well. We're going to need to be, on our A game, and our offense is going to need to play smart and to find ways to make things happen. And our defense is going to need to hustle, and keep balls in play. So I think it's going to be a good game. We're ready for it, and we're excited.
It's probably the biggest game of the year so far to date, at least at home for
Yeah,
sure.
I think so
So
too.
make sure there's a big crowd there. 5:30 JV, 6:30, around 6:30 with a varsity. And you get 2 home games this week. That's a big deal too, to
hmm
not have to get on a bus and go to Dallas for a week.
Right.
As you get Shelton at home on Thursday. I think Shelton is probably, and you may know better than me. I think they're probably a little below that next tier that includes us and Vanguard and maybe Covenant. I don't really know, but Shelton, but it's one of those games like you mentioned, you have to win if you want to accomplish your goals.
Right. And again, you never know who's going to show up, and who's going to do what on which day. I always tell the girls, any team is beatable, and that includes us on any given night. So we still have to show up ready to play our game and just take care of business.
So I do want to make mention, and we talked about it just a second ago. The schedule gets a little weird for us because if you've been around Brook Hill long, the senior trip is next week, and so that seventh game of the first round, that Dallas Christian game, is going to be moved to the end of the year, and we'll talk more about that later. You're going to play those guys on back-to-back nights, which will be
Yeah,
interesting to say the least.
of
Um,
course.
so Tuesday and Thursday at home, big nights as you get ready to go through it would be huge to go 4-2 in the first round. I feel like for us,
I agree.
in terms of playoff spots. I want to talk to you a little bit about. I was talking to you off the air. Coach Ryle mentioned this week in his interview his JV team, and your JV team has done a lot of great things this year. Talk a little bit about them and what they've accomplished so far.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Last year we started with very minimal numbers, and we kind of really struggled to keep that JV team all season long, just numbers wise. And this year, I've had comments at every, our district games, oh my gosh, you have so many JV players. And I think at one point we had 14 girls on the roster for JV, and with injuries and whatnot on varsity, we've had to, make a few adjustments, move some up, which they've done a great job. And even with that, our JV is really performing. They've shown improvement from day one, just surprising us left and right. Just they're doing good things. They're being coachable. And they haven't lost a district game yet. So we're pretty proud of them and excited for what they keep doing.
And I think people forget sometimes that JV is a hard level to play in any sport because, as you
Yes.
mentioned, when there is an injury at the varsity level, somebody usually is going to be taken away from them. But
Hmm.
also, the ultimate goal on JV is to be able to, in football at least, what we say is you want to be a Friday night guy. So to be a Friday night guy, you got to really
Right.
turn it on a JV game. Same thing for you. And
Right.
I've seen some of those JV kids on your bench and getting to play some for you and how important that is to have those numbers. They finished second in the Brook Hill tournament a couple weeks ago. We talked about that, but
Right.
also you mentioned to me off the air that they're undefeated in district, which is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah. And when you talk about the level of play for JV, it's always been just the difference is, we don't have enough to have like a freshman team. So really, um, I feel like, when they come in, we have a big group of freshmen this year, and they're the majority of our what makes up our JV team this year. It's a big level not to just go from middle school to high school, but to go from middle school straight to JV, and you're competing, with experienced high school players. So I say that I think that says something else about our team too.
Absolutely, and I also don't want to get out of here this week without mentioning middle school because now as we're getting into the full swing of things, and of course you guys have been in district now for a couple of weeks, but the middle schoolers are starting to pick up and play more games on a regular basis. Talk a little bit about how the work they've put in because there's a ton of them. Maybe not the 80 you had last year, but there's a lot of middle school volleyball players this year, and I see them working every day. They're working hard.
Yeah, they are. And not 80. I mean, we have close to I think we're only 12 to be exact, short, less 12 less than we were
Wow,
last year.
that's
So it's
crazy.
still a lot. But I think me knowing them from last year, it's been easier to kind of coordinate practices, know what we need to work on and where we need to go from there. And they've really just hit the ground running. They're learning new things, more advanced things, so that when they get to high school, they're ready. And at that next level, they did play in a tournament this last Saturday, and they did well. They were still learning new things, and by the end of the day, they had capitalized on those things, and they were working better together and really having a lot of fun. So it's been fun to watch.
And I think that sometimes our families that have been at Brook Hill for a long time don't understand this. You've come from a public school background, so you can kind of speak to this a little bit more than some others. But it's very rare, number one, that your middle school teams are coached by your varsity coaches. Number one, I think that's a huge difference. But also
Yeah.
the amount of work and the level of work they're getting. I mean, it's very rare, I think, and you could probably speak to this also. But our kids get a lot more work and a lot more quality work than what a lot of middle schools are getting.
Yeah, I agree. I think what we have is really special, especially this year. We have 4 coaches in our practice every single day, um, that we have them, and I think putting more eyes on all of those athletes that we have has really helped us reach, not even our like just the 8th graders, but we're able to reach our 7th and 6th graders just by having more coaches in the gym. And then I also want to mention that I think is really helpful and is going to help us in the long run is that, twice a week after volleyball practice, they're going to Coach Kofer for strength and conditioning. And I think that also has shown improvement with us too.
Yeah, well, that's something that we haven't really talked about is our girls are lifting 2 days a week. Middle school girls are lifting 2 days a week, and the middle school
Yeah.
football lifting the other 2. That's made a huge difference, so
Yeah.
to speak. And you mentioned the 4 coaches, and I think the main thing about that helps is the fact that you have 60 plus kids in there,
Hmm.
and there's not because you have so many coaches, there's not a lot of standing around time, and I think that's the hardest thing when you have that many kids, right, Coach? I mean, to keep
Yeah.
them active and busy the whole time.
Of course, and we're utilizing 1 gym, 2 courts, and that's a lot of kids for 2 courts. So I think that with us having those 4 coaches in there, we're able to, get time on the court. But even when they're not able to be on the court, there's a coach there with an activity for them to do when they're off the court. So they're always doing something.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, keep up the good work. Tuesday night, Thursday night, both at home. 5:30
Yeah.
JV, 6:30 varsity, and Tuesday is a big one. Make sure you are there as Waco Vanguard comes to town, and that's a huge playoff. We need a playoff atmosphere because that's a playoff type game, Coach.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, perfect. We will visit with you next week.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, definitely make sure that you are in Harrington Gym on Tuesday night, especially as Waco Vanguard comes to town. That is a huge matchup for our ladies, as a win over Vanguard would do wonders for them in terms of playoff seeding and getting into the playoffs, which is where we're trying to get this year with that group. And then, of course, Thursday night they're at home against Dallas Shelton. There's a lot of things going on Thursday at Brook Hill, and one of those things is the big varsity volleyball game. Is you heard Coach mention you got to make sure and win the ones you're supposed to win, and that is definitely one Thursday night against Shelton. And finally, on this week's episode, I had a chance to visit with head football coach Scott Ryle as the guard got a big win on Friday over White Oak, 55-20. And as you're going to hear us talk about, we had a great opportunity to get a lot of our younger players some time. I know that a significant number of JV guys got a lot of time in the second half on Friday night just because of the way the game was going. But a lot of big players, a lot of big performances on Friday night, and I had a chance to visit with Coach Scott Ryle about some of those in the game in general. All right, here with head football coach Scott Ryle. And Coach, a big win on Friday, 55-20 was the final, and that score probably not indicative of what it would have looked like. We played a lot of JV guys in the second half. Good to get them some reps, but maybe a little closer than what people anticipated on the scoreboard.
Yeah, it's always exciting to, especially in the second half, to get everyone in the game. And I thought the first half we played well and put ourselves in a situation where everyone got to play. So that was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. I do want to talk about a few guys statistically that we have either not talked a lot about or we haven't talked about in a while. One of the ones you and I were talking about was Osagi Zigby, the kicker. Uh, he was 7 of 7 for point after tries. He was 2 for 2 on field goals, which is impressive enough on its own. But 9 of his 11 kickoffs were touchbacks, and they weren't like rolling into the end zone touchbacks. They were landing 4, 5, 6 yards deep in the end zone.
Yeah, he's a huge weapon. And what's crazy is I don't even think he's even trying yet. I think it's about this time last year he came up to me and said, "Hey, can I kick?" And he kicked for the first JV game and kicked in the end zone. And ever since then, he's improving, and I think he has more to give. He's been real impressive so far, and a huge weapon for us.
It's been fun as he kind of figures out that he can do it, because I'm with you. I think that he doesn't realize the weapon that he is. I mean, you're talking about Division I leg with his kickoffs and with his field goals too. He did have a 46-yarder last year in a JV game, which is pretty impressive. Um, Defensively, obviously, when you don't give up a lot of points, you have some guys that stand out. One name that we haven't talked about over the course of the last few weeks was Marlon Rataj, who's one of the guys who last year came to us, had never done it before, was just trying to figure out the game, and now he's a starting safety for us. He had 8 tackles Friday night in pretty much a half. I don't think he played much in the second half, including a tackle for loss and a couple of pass deflections. and he played well Friday, but he's really played well, Coach, over the last few weeks.
He is, and I'll tell you what, he's one of those kids that when he arrived last year, he came, and the only thing he played was soccer. He's from Germany, but he's a great athlete and learned the game last year, and he's really stepped up this year. And he sees the ball or sees the field on both sides of the ball, and he plays really well at safety for us on defense, and he's a heck of a teammate, which I can't speak enough about that. He's a great teammate for the rest of our guys.
Marcelo Martinez at linebacker, he was out 2 weeks ago in the Live Oak game, came back against Grace, had a great night, 15 tackles in that loss. He had 9 more Friday in the half. And talk a little bit about what it's like to have Marcelo back and what he does. He's one of the most football smart players that we've had in a long time.
Yeah, he has the it. He has a nose for the football. I know in the Grace game I think he missed 1 tackle, and that's all he harped on, and that he was going to get better at that. And him being in the middle makes our team a lot better. And I look forward to his growth this year. And I think he leads quietly, but I know that the defense definitely follows him. He's a great player.
Yeah, for sure. Now, obviously, when you score 55 points offensively, you have some great things that happen. Cam Ryle goes 12 for 12 for 218, ran for 2, threw for 2. Just a great performance for him in terms of commanding the offense and kind of letting things happen, I guess. And I thought he played really well Friday.
Yeah, I was proud of how he played, and he didn't force anything, and he let the plays kind of come to him and took the opportunities he needed to do. And I was really pleased on some of the reads that he made on the run game. That's something that I think is something that we need to get better at, and I was excited to see him run some balls in the end zone.
Yeah, speaking of running, I do want to mention we'll get to Trey Watley in a minute, but how about Ronnie Lindros, who has really battled some injuries early on? He only had 1 carry the other night, and it was on a jet sweep. He took it 37 yards to the house. I know you're happy for Ronnie and how hard he's worked and the stuff he's kind of worked through.
Yeah, I mean he's fighting a shoulder deal, and we're excited about his growth. He's a good football player, and I was excited that we were able to hand him the football and him run it. I think he ran 50 yards for a 35-yard touchdown, but he's a great weapon, has a little speed, and I know he's going to have a great season as we go forward.
Yeah, exciting to see him out there, and hopefully we can see more. And then finally, Trey Watley, who we've talked a lot about in the last few weeks, but really was kind of forced into a lead back role on Friday. 12 carries, 87 yards, and a touchdown. And coach, the yardage and the touchdowns are great, but when you just watch Trey run, his balance and his footwork is unbelievable.
He is. It was funny watching him last year. The growth that he's made from 8th grade to freshman year. He's a different kind of back. He runs over his pads, but he's such a student of the game. He always asks me questions. I'm the running back coach, and he always wants to get better. And I appreciate that about a young back because he wants to learn and wants to get better. And I can imagine what the back he's going to be in a few years. He's a special running back for sure.
So a 55-20 win brings the record back to 2-2 overall, and a good solid team win. Everybody can contribute. A bunch of guys caught passes Friday, and a bunch of guys carried the football. But looking forward now to Atlanta, and this is a game that I think everybody's kind of had their radar up for since last year. They had a new coach last year. They had gone 0-10 the year before, and they started out hot last year. And we go to Atlanta and lose a game 35-28 with 12 seconds left. Those guys scored and got one on us. They're 2-2 this year. They started 2-0 and lost the last 2. But talk a little bit about Atlanta, coach, and what they bring to the table.
Yeah, they're unbelievably fast. I mean, they're one of the fastest teams we'll face this year. Probably the next fastest is probably Dallas Christian. I mean, they've always very competitive on the track and field, and we're going to have to – I think it's going to be a grind on the offense. We're going to have to just do 5 yards and be content with that because they're going to be a hard team to make big shots on. But they're a good football team. They're going to be one of the better teams we play this year, but they'll prepare us for district play.
Yeah, it'll be a fun one heading into the bye week next week for us. Obviously, we need a big crowd there. 7:30 kickoff. The JV will be on the road in Atlanta. Coach, I do want to get you to talk for a second about our middle school guys. Really, they've been going for a few weeks now. The 7th grade got a great last-second win at White Oak the other night, and the JV guys are playing well. They got the win Friday night or Thursday night as well. Talk a little bit about our sub-varsity guys, our middle school and our JV, and kind of what you've seen from them early on.
Well, let me just speak to the 7th graders. Last Thursday, I get a video because they were on the road and we were home with JV, and them scoring when I hear the buzzer sound and how they just came together and went crazy after the game. I wish I could have been there. I know my wife was there. And what a great time and great memories they made coming together and win. I mean, we don't have a lot of numbers. We're a small school playing a big public school. And, man, they played really well. And our eighth grade's been playing really tough. And, and then JV, they have been consistent throughout the year. One thing about JV football at our level is, as a varsity team with injuries, we pluck those guys, but they've been really competitive throughout the year. And I'm excited that they came back and won in the second half of the game last week and came out with a victory against White Oak.
So the middle school guys are at home Thursday. Coach, what time do those games start on Thursday?
So we're real fortunate. We are going to play our sixth graders in a scrimmage at 4:30, and we'll scrimmage for about 30 minutes, and then our seventh graders play at 5:15, and then we'll follow with our eighth graders, hopefully 6:15 or so. It'll be kind of a rolling start, and then JV will be on the road at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, so make sure you get a chance to come out Thursday and watch those guys. If you got nothing better to do, come out and watch them. There's a volleyball game at home, so you can catch all those things on Thursday night. Coach, we appreciate it, and we'll visit with you again next week.
All right, thank you.
And as always, we appreciate Coach Ryle for joining us every week here on Fire the Cannon, a Brook Hill Guard athletic podcast, talking about all things Brook Hill football. And one thing that he and I did not talk about, but you lower school families that are involved in the Guard Dog program, kind of a cool week this week for Guard Dogs. Usually we meet on Wednesdays, the football team and the Guard Dogs. This week it's going to be on Friday, as they're going to get to be a part of Walk to the Rock. We're going to change. There's a lot of things going on. There's another special program on Friday, so we're trying to move things around. But Friday at 8 o'clock, the Guard Dogs will get to take part in Walk to the Rock, which is a special time that the varsity football team does every home game, where you meet at the cabin. There's a devotional. That this is a tradition started long ago. And then, of course, after that devotional, the drumline, cheerleaders, drill team, football all walk through the quad to the rock in front of the Cow Lake Athletic Center, where there's a prayer. And usually that leads into the pep rally, but this week, obviously, it'll be a little bit different. We'll have the Walk to the Rock, and then we'll go to class. But check that out Friday if you have never been a part of Walk to the Rock, or if you are a parent of a Guard Dog and you want to see. I mean, obviously, you will bring your kid to that, but just to kind of take part in all that, it's a great experience that they'll get to do. And then, of course, Friday, the pep rally at its normal time, I believe at 1. I don't want to say that. I don't want to get that wrong. Be watching social medias and emails for that. I believe it's 1 o'clock on Friday, the pep rally. But all that will take place this week as the Atlanta Rabbits come to town on Friday. And you heard Coach Ryle talk about that football game. And it was a great one last year, 35-28. Atlanta got the win with just 12 seconds left in the game. So all that stuff coming up. Once again, thanks to everybody for joining us this week. Once again, our numbers are through the roof in terms of who's listening and the number of you that are taking part in this podcast. And we appreciate it. If you have any feedback, feel free to give it at any time. I've kind of picked on a few people for this. I know I'm going to get a text from Chad Grubbs probably in the next few days, and that's okay. I can deal with Chad. But make sure that if you have anything that you'd like to see us do different or something like to see us add, please let us know. I've got a couple of deals with some football players, and if they ever live up to their end of the bargain, they're going to get to be on the podcast. I've been working with a couple of guys for a few weeks now. If you can reach a certain level of statistical numbers on the field, I'll get you on. So we'll do that. But if you want to see us do anything or something we could do better or something you think, hey, I could help you with that or whatever, please reach out to us and let us know. We are truly doing this for our families and for our school, and it has nothing to do with me and even NetSN. We're bringing it to you, but we want to make sure it's the best for everybody involved. So until next week, this is Jeremy Herbert saying so long, and we'll see you around the campus of the Brook Hill School. See you next week on Fire the Cannon.